Whoops, I didn't notice my mic was muted. Well, very scuff. We're starting good. Hi everyone, how you guys doing? I hope you guys have a wonderful good day so far. And that the heat isn't too bothering. Wanna see, is the sound good? Hey Sasuke! How you doing? A wonderful good evening to you. You guys ready for some fairy tales? You guys suggested Thumbelina for today. Thumbelina? Thumbelina? Yeah, I think that's how her name is. I'm glad to hear you're doing fine. You excited? I am too. Oh my god, we're getting some kitty ASMR as well. Hi Nox. You wanna say hi? We have a special guest today. His name's Nox. He's my cat, and he just decided he wants to join us. I don't know if you can hear his purrs, but hey, kitty ASMR, let's go. You good boy. Alright. Do you guys want to get started? You guys ready? Or do you guys want to have a little bit of a tea party first? Hey Rello, thank you so much. I hope you enjoy D&D. Good luck. Thanks for the lurk. Okay, you guys ready? Nice. Let's go. This is the story of a tiny, tiny little girl and her journey through nature. Hans Christian Andersen wrote this delicate story in 1835. Like many of his tales, it's about the courage and survival against the odds of somebody quite small and rather different. If you like this story, you will probably enjoy The Ugly Duckling too. Proofread by Claire Deacon, read by Natasha, duration 32 minutes and 22 seconds. This is actually an audio file, but they have the written text as well, so... This time it is read by me, yours truly. I hope you enjoy. Version from Andrew Lang's Yellow Fairy Book. There was once a woman who wanted to have quite a tiny little child, but she did not know where to get one from. So one day she went to an old witch and said to her, "I should so much like to have a tiny little child. Can you tell me where I can get one?" "Oh, we have one. We've just got one ready," said the witch. "Here's a barley corn for you, but it's not the kind the farmer sows in this field, or feeds the cocks and hens with. I can tell you, put it in a flower pot, and then you will see something happen." Hey Peach! Yeah, please don't dox yourself. Please take care, guys. You can make if you go into your character on your YouTube, you can make a second account without having to resort to any new emails or anything. You just go into your already created account, make another under account, and can give it any username you like. so you don't need to dox yourself. I hope it helps. Good luck. Oh, thank you, said the woman, and gave the witch a shilling, for that was what it cost. Then she went home and planted a barley corn. The fuck is a barley corn? Please, someone tell me. I don't know, man. I know what a corn is, but what the fuck is a barley corn? Come on, let's be real here. Okay, Peach, I can show you later. No worries. Immediately, there grew out of it a large and beautiful flower, which looked like a tulip, but the petals were tightly closed, as if it were still only a bud. What a beautiful flower, exclaimed the woman, and she kissed the red and yellow petals, but as she kissed them, the flower burst open. It was a real tulip, such as one can see one day, but in the middle of a blossom. On the green, velvety petal sat a little girl, quite tiny, trim, and pretty. She was scarcely half of a thumb in height, and so they called her Thumbelina. An elegant polished walnut shell served Thumbelina as a cradle. The blue petals of a violet were her mattress, and a rose leaf her coverlid. There she lay at night, but in the daytime she used to play about in the table. Here the woman had to put a bowl, surrounded by a ring of flowers, with their stalks in water, in the middle of which floated a great tulip petal. That sentence makes it for anyone, because it didn't for me. Well, what is with all texts, man? It makes me so hurt. This Thumbelina sat and sailed from one side of the bowl to the other, rowing herself with 2 white horsehairs for oars. It was such a pretty sight. She could sing too, with a voice more soft and sweet than had ever been heard before. Hell yeah, Peach, it works. One night, when she was lying in her pretty little bed, an old toad crept in through a broken pane in the window. She was very ugly, clumsy, and clammy. She hopped on to the table where Thumbelina lay asleep under the red rose leaf. This would make a beautiful wife for my son, said the toad, taking up the walnut shell with Thumbelina inside and went hopping with it through the window into the garden. Oh my god, she's being kidnapped. Oh my god, guys, she's being kidnapped. She's just a baby. Baby napping, baby napping. Alarm, alarm. There flowed a great wide stream with slippery and marshy banks. Here the toad lived with her son. Ugh, how ugly and clammy he was, just like his mother. Croak, croak, croak was all he could say when he saw the pretty little girl in the walnut shell. How do you make croak sounds? He's like, oh. Please send help. Okay, let's try this again. Rip it. I mean, wrong animal, but close enough, I guess. Anyway. Don't act so loud, or you will wake her, said the old toad. She might escape us even now. She is as light as a feather. We will put her at once on a broad water lily leaf in the stream. That will be quite an island for her. She's so small and light. She can't run away from us there. Whilst we are preparing the guest chamber under the marsh where she shall live. Outside in the brook grew many water lilies with broad green leaves, which looked as if they were swimming about on the water. The leaf furthest away was the largest, and to this the old toad swam, with Thumbelina in her walnut shell. Nailed it. Hey, Saving Throws. How you doing? Tiny Thumbelina woke up very early in the morning, and when she saw where she was, she began to cry bitterly, for on every side of a great green leaf was water, and she could not get to the land. The old toad was down under the marsh, decorating her room with rushes and yellow marigold leaves to make it very grand for her new daughter-in-law. Oh, that's actually pretty cute. Like, marigold leaves are really adorable, actually really pretty. Then she swam out with her ugly son to the leaf where Thumbelina lay. She wanted to fetch the pretty cradle to put it into her room before Thumbelina herself came there. The old toad bowed low under water before her and said, "He is my son. You shall marry him and live in great magnificence down under the marsh." Croak, croak, croak. I can't take this serious. Ribbit. Oh no. Was all that the sun could say. Then they took the neat little cradle and swam away with it. But Thumbelina sat alone on the great green leaf. Noxie, stop it! You can't rub your head against the mic. You're abusing the mic. But Thumbelina sat alone on the great green leaf and wept, for she did not want to live with a clammy toad or marry her ugly son. The little fishes swimming about under the water had seen the toad quite plainly and heard what she had said, so they put up their heads to see the little girl. When they saw her, they thought her so pretty that they were very sorry she should go down with the ugly toad to live. No, that must not happen. They assembled in the water around the green stalk, which supported the leaf on which she was sitting, and nibbled the stem in two. Ooh, the fishes are saving her. Let's go. Fishes are real MVPs. We love fishes. Away floated a leaf down the stream, bearing Thumbelina far beyond the reach of the toad. On she sailed, past several towns, and the little birds sitting in the bushes saw her, and sang, "What a pretty little girl!" The leaf floated farther and farther away. Thus Thumbelina left her native land. Oh, she going places? Let's go. Poor toad. He should probably learn to speak first, in my opinion, so he can communicate and maybe find someone he can that actually likes him. Also, she's still a child, okay? Leave the poor baby alone. She's too young to marry. A beautiful little white butterfly fluttered above her and at last settled on the leaf. Thumbelina pleased him, and she too was delighted, for now the toads could not reach her, and it was so beautiful where she was traveling. The sun shone on the water and made it sparkle like the brightest silver. She took off her sash and tied one end around the butterfly. The other end she fastened to the leaves so that now it glided along with her faster than ever. What is that word? A great chaffinch. What does that mean? Please someone tell me what a chaffinch is. I don't know that. I have never heard that word before in my life. What the fuck is that? Please help. A great chaffinch came flying past. He caught sight of Thumbelina and in a moment had put his arms around her slender waist and had flown off with her to a tree. The green leaf floated away down the stream, and the butterfly with it, for he was fastened to the leaf and could not get loose from it. Oh dear, how terrified the poor little Thumbelina was. Then when the chaffinch? Please. It's a bird? Oh my god. Like, I kind of guessed it, but at the same time, what kind of bird is that? How How terrified poor Thumbelina was when the chaffinch flew off with her to the tree. But she was especially distressed on the beautiful white butterfly's account, as she had tied him fast, so that if he could not get away, he must starve to death. Oh no, the butterfly! No! Oh, butterfly buddy! But the chaffinch did not trouble himself about that. He sat down with her on a large green leaf, gave her the honey out of the flowers to eat, and told her that she was very pretty, although she wasn't in the least like a chaffinch. Later on, all the other chaffinches who lived in the same tree came to pay calls. They examined Thumbelina closely and remarked how very miserable. "She has no feelers," cried another. "How ugly she is," said old lady Shuffers. I don't know what kind of animal it is, but it's annoying. Finch? Isn't a finch a fish? "How ugly she is," said all the lady chaffers, and yet Thumbelina was really very pretty. The chaffinch who had stolen her knew this very well, but when he heard all the ladies saying she was ugly, he began to think so too, and would not keep her. She might go wherever she liked. So he flew down from the tree with her and put her in a daisy. There she sat and wept because she was so ugly that the chaffinch would have nothing to do with her. Oh, and yet she was the most beautiful creature imaginable, so soft and delicate, like the loveliest rose leaf. The whole summer poor little Thumbelina lived alone in the great woods. She plaited a bed for herself of blades of grass and hung it up under a clover leaf, so that she was protected from the rain. She gathered honey from the flowers for food and drank the dew on the leaves every morning. Thus the summer and autumn passed, but then came winter, the long, cold winter. All the birds who had sung so sweetly about her had flown away. The trees shed their leaves, the flowers died, and the great clover leaf under which she had lived curled up, and nothing remained of it but the withered stalk. She was terribly cold, for her clothes were ragged, and she herself was so small and thin. Poor little Thumbelina. Oh, Finca, I see. I see. Thanks, Peach. See, you can't hit your head on the mic, please. I appreciate the explanation, you guys. Yeah, I just haven't heard the English word for that specific type of bird before, so I was so fucking confused. It's also kind of hard to pronounce a chaffinch. Thanks, Peach. She would surely be frozen to death. It began to snow, and every snowflake that fell on her was to her as a whole shovelful thrown on one of us. For we are so big, and she was only an inch high. She wrapped herself up in a dead leaf, but it was torn in the middle and gave her no warmth. She was trembling with cold. But I have cat hair in my face. My ADHD makes my skin very hypersensitive, so whenever I have some cat hair somewhere on my body, it's really uncomfortable. Just outside the wood where she was now living lay a great cornfield, But the corn had been gone a long time, and only the dry, bare stubble was left standing in the frozen ground. This made a forest for her to wander about in. All at once she came across the door of a field mouse, who had a little hole under a cornstalk. There the mouse lived warm and snug, with a storeroom full of corn, a splendid kitchen and dining room. Poor little Thumbelina went up to the door and begged for a little piece of barley, for she had not had anything to eat for the last 2 days. Poor little creature, said the field mouse, for she was a kind-hearted old thing at the bottom. Come into my warm room and have some dinner with me. As Thumbelina pleased her, she said, as far as I am concerned, you may spend the winter with me, but you must keep my room clean and tidy and tell me stories, for I like that very much. Thumbelina did all that the kind old field mouse asked, and did it remarkably well too. Now I am expecting a visitor, said the field mouse. My neighbor comes to call on me every week. He is in better circumstances than I am, has great big rooms, and wears a fine black velvet coat. If you could only marry him, you would be well provided for, but he is blind. You must tell him all the prettiest stories you know. But Thumbelina did not trouble her head about him, for he was only a mole. He came and paid them a visit in his black velvet coat. He is so rich and so accomplished, the field mouse told her. His house is 20 times larger than mine. He possesses great knowledge, but he cannot bear the sun and the beautiful flowers, and speaks slightingly of them, for he has never seen them. Thumbelina had to sing to him, so she sang, lady bird, fly away home, and other songs so pretty that the mole fell in love with her. But he did not say anything, as he was a very cautious man. A short time before he had dug a long passage through the ground from his home house to that of his neighbor. In this he gave the field mouse and Thumbelina permission to walk as often as they liked. He begged them not to be afraid of the dead bird that lay in the passage. It was a real bird with beak and feathers, and must have died a little time ago, and now lay buried just where he had made his tunnel. The mole took a piece of rotten wood in his mouth, for that glows like fire in the dark, and went in front, lighting them through the long, dark passage. When they came to the place where the dead bird lay, the mole put his broad nose against the ceiling and pushed a hole through, so that the daylight could shine down. In the middle of a path lay a dead shallow, his pretty wings pressed close to his sides, his claws and head drawn under his feathers. The poor bird had evidently died of the cold. Thumbelina was very sorry, for she was very fond of all the little birds. They had sung and twittered so beautifully to her all through the summer. But the mole kicked him with his bandy legs and said, now he can't sing anymore. It must be miserable to be a little bird. I'm thankful that none of my little children are. Birds are always starved in winter. Yes, you speak like a sensible man, said the field mouse. What has a bird in spite of all his singing in the winter time? He must have starved and freeze, and that must be very pleasant for him, I must say. Thumbelina did not say anything, but when the other two had passed on, she bent down to the bird, brushed aside the feathers from his head, and kissed his closed eyes gently. Perhaps it was he that sang to me so prettily in the summer, she thought. How much pleasure he did give me, dear little bird. The mole closed up the hole again, which let in the light, and then escorted the ladies home. But Thumbelina could not sleep that night, so she got out of bed and plaited a great big blanket of straws, and carried it off, spread it over the dead bird, and piled upon it thistle down, as soft as cotton wool, which she had found in the field mouse's room, so that the poor little thing should lie warmly buried. Oh, she's so cute. Farewell, pretty little bird, she said. Farewell, and thank you for your beautiful songs in the summer, when the trees were green and the sun shone down warmly on us. Then she laid her head against the bird's heart, but the bird was not dead. He had been frozen, but now she had warmed him. He was coming to life again. In autumn, the swallows fly away to foreign lands, but there are some who are late in starting, and then they get so cold that they drop down as if dead, and the snow comes and covers them over. Thumbelina trembled. She was so frightened, for the bird was very large in comparison with her. Only an inch high, but she took courage, piled up the down more closely over the poor swallow, fetched her own coverlid and laid it over his head. Next night she crept out again to him. There he was, alive but very weak. He could only open his eyes for a moment to look at Thumbelina, who was standing in front of him with a piece of rotten wood in her hand, for she had no other lantern. Thank you, pretty little child, said the swallow to her. I am so beautifully warm. Soon I shall regain my strength, and then I shall be able to fly out again into the warm sunshine. Oh, she said, it is very cold outside. It is snowing and freezing. Stay in your warm bed. I will take care of you. And she brought him water in a paddle, which he drank, after which he related to her how he had torn one of his wings on a bramble, so that he could not fly as fast as the other swallows, who had flown far away to warmer lands. So at last he dropped down exhausted, and then he could remember no more. The whole winter he remained down there, and Thumbelina looked after him and nursed him tenderly. Neither the mole nor the field mouse learned anything of this, for they could not bear the poor swallow. When the spring came and the sun warmed the earth again, the swallow said farewell to Thumbelina, who opened the hole in the roof for him, which the mole had made. The sun shone brightly down upon her. The swallow asked her if she would go with him. She could sit upon his back. Thumbelina wanted very much to fly far away into the green wood, but she knew that the old field mouse would be sad if she ran away. No, I mustn't come, she said. Farewell, dear good little girl, said the swallow, and flew off into the sunshine. Thumbelina gazed after him, with the tears standing in her eyes, for she was very fond of the swallow. Tweet, tweet, sang the bird. Tweet, tweet. Chirp, chirp. And flew into the green wood. Thumbelina was very unhappy. She was not allowed to go out into the warm sunshine. The corn, which had been sowed in the field over the fieldman's house, grew up high into the air and made a thick forest for the poor little girl, who was only an inch high. Now you are to be a bride, Thumbelina, said the field mouse, for our neighbor has proposed to you. What a piece of fortune for a poor child like you. Now you must set to work at your linen for your dowry, for nothing must be lacking if you are to become the wife of our neighbor, the mole. Thumbelina had to spin all day long, and every evening the mole visited her and told her that when the summer was over, the sun would not shine so hot. Now it was burning the earth as hard as a stone. Yes, when the summer had passed, they would keep the wedding. But she was not at all pleased about it, for she did not like the stupid mole. Every morning when the sun was rising, and every evening when it was setting, she would steal out of a house door, and when the breeze parted the ears of corn so that she could see the blue sky through them, she thought, how bright and beautiful it must be outside, and longed to see her dear swallow again. But he never came. No doubt he had flown away far into the great green wood. By the autumn, Thumbelina had finished the dowry. "In 4 weeks you will be married," said the field mouse. "Don't be obstinate, or I shall bite you with my sharp white teeth. You will get a fine husband. The king himself has not such a velvet coat. His storeroom and cellar are full, and you should be thankful for that." Well, the wedding day arrived. The mole had come to fetch Thumbelina to live with him deep down under the ground, never to come out into the warm sun again, for there was what he didn't like. The poor little girl was very sad, for now she must say goodbye to the beautiful sun. "Farewell, bright sun," she cried, stretching out her arms towards it and taking another step outside the house. For now the corn had been reaped, and only the dry stubble was left standing. "Farewell, farewell," she said, and put her arms around the little red flower that grew there. "Give my love to the dear swallow when you see him." "Treat, treat," sounded in her ear. All at once she looked up. There was the swallow flying past. As soon as he saw Thumbelina, he was very glad. She told him how unwilling she was to marry the ugly mole, as then she had to live underground where the sun never shone, and she could not help bursting into tears. "The cold winter is coming now," said the swallow. "I must fly away to warmer lands. Will you come with me? You can sit on my back, and we will fly far away from the ugly mole and his dark house, over the mountains to the warm countries where the sun shines more brightly than here, where there is always summer, and there are always beautiful flowers. Do come with me, dear little Thumbelina, who saved my life when I lay frozen in the dark tunnel." "Yes, I will go with you," said Thumbelina, and got on the swallow's back. With her feet on one of his outstretched wings, up he flew into the air, over woods and seas, over great mountains where the snow was always lying. If she was cold, she crept under his warm feathers, only keeping her little head out to admire all the beautiful things in the world beneath. At last they came to warm lands. There the sun was brighter, the sky seemed twice as high, and in the hedges hung the finest green and purple grapes. In the woods grew oranges and lemons. The air was scented with myrtle and mint, and on the roads were pretty little children running about and playing with great gorgeous butterflies. But the swallow flew on further, and it became more and more beautiful, and the most splendid green trees beside the blue lake stood a glittering white marble castle. Vines hung about the high pillars. There were many swallows' nests, and in one of these lived the swallow who was carrying Thumbelina. "Here's my house," said he, "but it won't do for you to live with me. I am not tidy enough to please you. Find a home for yourself in one of the lovely flowers that grow down there. Now I will set you down, and you can do whatever you like." "That will be splendid," said she, clapping her little hands. There lay a great white marble column which had fallen to the ground and broken into 3 pieces, but between these grew the most beautiful white flowers. The swallow flew down with Thumbelina and set her upon one of the broad leaves, but there, to her astonishment, she found a tiny little man sitting in the middle of a flower, as white and transparent as he were made of glass. He had the prettiest golden crown on his head and the most beautiful wings on his shoulders. He himself was no bigger than Thumbelina. He was the spirit of the flower, and each blossom there dwelt a tiny man or woman, but this one was the king over the others. "How handsome he is," whispered Thumbelina to the swallow. The little prince was very much frightened at the swallow, for in comparison with one so tiny as himself, he seemed a giant. But when he saw Thumbelina, he was delighted, for she was the most beautiful girl he had ever seen. So he took his golden crown from off his head and put it on hers, asking her her name and if she would be his wife. Then she would be queen of all the flowers. Yes, he was a different kind of husband to the son of the toad and the mole with the black velvet coat. So she said yes to the noble prince. Out of each flower came a lady and gentleman, each so tiny and pretty that it was pleasure to see them. Each brought Thumbelina a present, but the best of all was a beautiful pair of wings which were fastened on to her back, and now she too could fly from flower to flower. They all wished her joy, and the swallow sat above in his nest and sang the wedding march. And that he did as well as he could, but he was sad because he was very fond of Thumbelina and did not want to be separated from her. You shall not be called Thumbelina, said the spirit of the flower to her. That is an ugly name, and you are much too pretty for that. We will call you May Blossom. Farewell, farewell, said the little swallow with a heavy heart, and flew away to far lands, far, far away, right back to Denmark. There he had a little nest above a window, where his wife lived, who can tell fairy stories. Tweet, tweet, he sang to her, and that is the way he learned the whole story. Oh, poor bird. I really wished Thumbelina and the bird would have hung out together, living happily ever after together. That would have been cute. They all went on with their own lives. The story is cute, but I don't like the ending. Bird and Thumbelina deserve to have a happy life together as best friends, traveling the world, seeing beautiful lands. Welcome back, Rello. The story was shorter than I expected. Let's see if we can find another short story. Right, that would have been really precious, I agree. Oh yeah, that mole was disgusting. He was so mean. I really thought the story would be a little longer so I could fill at least 1 hour, maybe 1.5, but let's see. You guys have a specific story you want to hear as well as a second? Well, so I'm glad to hear that. I hope my little commentary in between wasn't too distracting. Maybe. Twinkle Twinkle Little Star has a story? I didn't know that. You guys got any specific stories you want to hear? Kind of. You don't know any? Oh, okay. Oh, let's see how long is this one. Let's read this one. The White Snake. I think last time we did Little Mermaid. And another one. Not sure which one the other one was again. Let's go with White Snake. Sounds good. This little known but charming story by the Brothers Grimm is about a servant who learns to understand the speech of animals. He travels the world and does favors to creatures along the way. Then, when he needs help to win the hand of a princess, they come to his aid. Ooh, interesting. A long time ago, there lived a king who was famed for his wisdom through all the land. Nothing was hidden from him, and it seemed as if news of the most secret things was brought to him through the air. But he had a strange custom. Every day after dinner, when the table was cleared and no one else was present, a trusty servant had to bring him one more dish. It was covered, however, and even the servant did not know what was in it. Neither did anyone else know, for the king never took off the cover to eat it until he was quite alone. This had gone on for a long time, when one day the servant who took away the dish was overcome with such curiosity that he could not help carrying the dish into his room. When he had carefully locked the door, he lifted up the cover and saw a white snake lying on the dish. But when he saw it, he could not deny himself the pleasure of tasting it. So he cut off a little bit and put it into his mouth. No sooner had it touched his tongue than he heard a strange whispering of little voices outside his window. He went and listened, and then noticed that it was the sparrows who were chattering together and telling one another of all kinds of things which they had seen in the fields and woods. I need to drink something. I don't have any water. I'll be right back. Yeah, the story started kind of graphic, I must admit. Eating the snake had given him power of understanding the language of animals. Now it so happened that on this very day, the queen lost her most beautiful ring, and suspicion of having stolen it fell upon this trusty servant, who was allowed to go everywhere. The king ordered the man to be brought before him, and threatened with angry words that unless he could before the morrow point out the thief, he himself should be looked upon as guilty and executed. In vain he declared his innocence. Though fairy tales are not as child friendly as most people think, you're right. In his trouble and fear, he went down into the courtyard and thought long and hard. My brain is farting, man. Mama, what's up? Yeah. What's up? Yeah. You come here? Hi. Now some ducks were sitting together quietly by a brook and taking their rest, and while they were making their feathers move with their bills, they were having a confidential conversation together. The servants stood by and listened. They were telling one another of all the places where they had been waddling about all the morning, and what good food they had found. When one said in a pitiful tone, "Something lies heavy on my stomach." As I was eating in haste, I swallowed a ring which lay under the queen's window. The servant at once seized her, carried her to the kitchen, and said to the cook, "Here's a fine duck, roast her for dinner." "Yes," said the cook, and waited her in his ends. "She has spared no trouble to fatten herself, and has been waiting to be roasted long enough." As he prepared the duck for dinner, he found the ring inside. The servant could now easily prove his innocence, and the king, to make amends for the wrong, allowed him to ask a favor, and promised him the best place in the court that he could wish for. The servant refused everything, and only asked for a horse and some money for traveling, as he had a mind to see the world and go about a little. When his request was granted, he set out on his way. One day he came to a pond, where he saw 3 fishes caught in the reeds and gasping for water. Now, though it is said that fishes are dumb, he heard them complaining that they must perish so miserably, and as he had a kind heart, he got off his horse and put the 3 prisoners back into the water. I wouldn't call him kind. Yeah, Noxie's a good boy. You're such a good boy. Right, baby? You're such a good boy. They quivered with delight, put out their hats, and cried to him, "We will remember you and repay you for saving us." He rode on, and after a while it seemed to him that he heard a voice in the sand at his feet. He listened and heard an ant king complain, "Why cannot folks with their clumsy beasts keep off our bodies? That stupid horse with his heavy hoofs has been treading down my people without mercy." So he turned on to a side path, and the ant king cried out to him, "We will remember you. One good turn deserves another." The path led him into a wood, and here he saw 2 old ravens standing by their nest and throwing out their young ones. Okay. Is it just me, or does this keep getting weirder and more aggressive? Dude straight up picked up an innocent goose or duck and brought it over to be killed, just so a ring could be found. And then he saves fish. because he's kind-hearted. The hypocrisy. The poor duck man, I feel so bad for the duck. Out with you, you idle, good-for-nothing creatures, cried they. We cannot find food for you any longer. You are big enough and could provide for yourself. But the poor young ravens lay upon the ground, flapping their wings and crying, Oh, what helpless chicks we are! We must shift for ourselves, and yet we cannot fly. What can we do but lie here and starve? So the good young fellow climbed down and gave them his own food, which he had been carrying for his lunch. Then they came hopping up to his, satisfied their hunger, and cried, We will remember you. One good turn deserves another. When he had gone on a long way further, he came to a large city. There was a great noise and crowd in the street, and a man rode up on horseback, crying aloud, The king's daughter wants a husband, but whoever sues for her hand must perform a hard task, and if he does not succeed, he will forfeit his life. Many had already made the attempt, but in vain. Nevertheless, when the youth saw the king's daughter, he was so overcome by her great beauty that he forgot all danger, went before the king, and declared himself a suitor. So he was led out to the sea, and a gold ring was thrown into it in his sight. Then the king ordered him to fetch this ring up from the bottom of the sea, and added, If you come up again without it, you will be thrown in again and again until you perish amid the waves. Oh my god. What is this? This story is... yeah. All the people grieved for the handsome youth when they went away, leaving him alone by the sea. He stood on the shore and considered what he should do, when suddenly he saw 3 fishes come swimming towards him, and they were the very fishes whose life he had saved. The one in the middle held a mussel in its mouth, which it laid on shore at the youth's feet, and when he had taken it up and opened it, there lay the golden ring and the shell. Full of joy, he took it to the king and expected that he would grant him the promised reward. But when the proud princess saw that he was not her equal in birth, she scorned him and required him first to perform another task. She went down into the garden and strewed with her own hands 10 sacks full of millet seed on the ground. Then she said, Tomorrow morning, before sunrise, these must be picked up, and not a single grain be wanting. The youth sat down in the garden and considered how it might be possible to perform this task, but he could think of nothing, and there he sat sorrowfully awaiting the break of day, when he should be led to death. But as soon as the first rays of the sun shone into the garden, he saw all the 10 sacks standing side by side, quite full, and not a single grain was missing. The ant king had come in the night with thousands and thousands of ants, and the grateful creatures had by great industry picked up all the millet seed and gathered them into the sacks. Presently, the king's daughter herself came down into the garden and was amazed to see that the young man had done the task she had given him. But she could not yet conquer her proud heart and said, Although he has performed both the tasks, he shall not be my husband until he has brought me an apple from the tree of life. The youth did not know where the tree of life stood, but he set out and would have gone on forever, as long as his legs would carry him, though he had no hope of finding it. After he had wandered through 3 kingdoms, he came one evening to a wood and lay down under a tree to sleep. He heard a rustling in the branches, and a golden apple fell into his hand. At the same time, 3 ravens flew down to him, perched themselves upon his knee, and said, We are the 3 young ravens whom you saved from starving. When we had grown big and heard that you were seeking the golden apple, We flew over the sea to the end of the world where the tree of life stands, and have brought you the apple. A youth, full of joy, set out homewards and took the golden apple to the king's beautiful daughter, who had no more excuses left to make. They cut the apple of life in two and ate it together, and then her heart became full of love for him, and they lived in undisturbed happiness to a great age. I don't like this story. Hey, the animals are sweet. Yeah, I like that stories with animals, but this was kind of weird, man. I mean, that would make an interesting movie, I agree, but I don't know. Nobody. There were two stories. I liked Thumbelina. I don't like the first half of this one, but it would definitely make an interesting movie. Alright. How have your guys' day been otherwise? Let's do a little bit of chitter chatter before I'm calling it. I'll be on Twitch later with Final Fantasy, so feel free to check it out then, though it will be in the dead of the night, so. I agree, Thumbelina is a classic. There's many versions of Thumbelina. I have seen the Barbie Thumbelina one as a child many times. I like that one. That one was cute. I mean, I get the message of this story. That if you do good things come back to you. But I don't think he deserved anything good happening to him after just sacrificing a duck so heartlessly. You can chill now. That's important. That's great. I hope you have a chill evening now. I will go back into Party Finder Hell and try to clear P10S. It's been 3 weeks. I hate my life. I hate people. I hate Party Finder. I gotta bite my tongue and teeth and keep going and keep trying. Yeah, I agree. Imagine being able to hurt an animal. I could never. They only deserve the best. Thanks, Sasuke. I know you said you're taking a break, but do you know when you plan to come back to Final Fantasy so we can play together? Maybe you can still do a server transfer and then can join our free company, where we play together over time. Yeah, people suck. I really am thankful that you guys came to my YouTube stream. I know I haven't done one in like months, but I appreciate it. I'll do one every week so we can slowly grow the YouTube. It will mean a lot to me if you guys could like offline watch the video once or twice. just for algorithm boosting, even if you just mute it and run it in the background, it would just help. I appreciate you guys coming here. Also, if you haven't subscribed yet, there's a subscriber button down there. And the like button. With my 14 stream, I mean, I can start 14 early, I think. On Twitch, if you guys want to move over immediately to Twitch, I can do that. And then stream Final Fantasy for a couple hours. If that's what you guys prefer, I'm happy to do that. Yay! Thank you, Hello. Thank you. No, I won't feel pressured. I was thinking about it anyway. I would probably take a few minutes break so I can swap over to Twitch with my OBS, since I have to make a complete new setup and upload the VOD on YouTube, stuff like that. So yeah, if you guys can stay patient for like 15 to 30 minutes, I can set up for Twitch. And you guys can watch me suffer in fucking Final Fantasy Party Finder and Rage Quit and Power Quit rating all together because I hate my life. I just want to go into 11 and then in 12 and then get my axolotl mount. So the reason I'm actually going through this pain this tier is first, I have my static, love my static, absolutely amazing and fun people. And second, there's an axolotl amount this tier. If you clear the entire tier and do P12S over and over and maybe get lucky with rolls, you'll get a chance to get an axolotl mount. And I want the axolotl mount. I want it so bad. It's so fucking cute. I want it. So I suffer. Thanks for stopping by. I know the YouTube stream is short, but the stories are kind of short too. I will try to find longer stories for the next one. Feel free to drop me your recommendations in Discord in our stream server, so you can tell me which story you want next time, and I will look into it and try to find some stories. I actually have a book with fairy tales here at home. It's in German though. I recently bought it like a few weeks ago in a bookstore. It's really, really pretty. I might make a German version as well, where I just read out of this book. But yeah, I hope to see you guys later. Much love. Okay, Rello, please do so. Catch you guys later. Much love. Mwah. Mwah. Mwah.